Hey, Trevor, thank you so much, man. Tonight is a huge night for me. I don't know if you know this, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's getting a haircut.
It's always a great night when Joey is on.
Well, my dad...
Wow, that was nice.
Thank you. Mickey Mantle was my dad's... My dad was a huge fan of Mickey Mantle, and I'm a huge fan of Jackie Martling, Jackie the Joke Man.
That is very nice to hear. That's great. I was a huge fan of Mickey Mantle myself.
So you're my Mickey Mantle, the comedy. You know,
oh, that is so nice. You know, people say to me, how could you live on Long Island and not be a Met fan? And I tell them, because there were no Mets when I was a kid.
Right.
The Mets came into play, so to speak, in 1962, which was the year that I discovered girls, and baseball went out the window, and women came in the window. You know, in the late 50s, I could tell you every Yankee and every position, and, you know, but 1962,
right.
they went away. Luckily, Mickey and Roger had the big battle, 61 for 61, and I enjoyed that, and then moved on to bushier pastures, so we say.
So, Jackie, you are a legend in stand-up comedy, a legend in radio. It's incredible.
I hate that word. The word legend, what's that mean?
It means you're...
Old. It means old. Legend equals old.
I mean it as the best.
Well,
the best.
I will accept that, thank you. And that's a little overdoing it, but I will graciously accept it. But
you're one of the Beatles with radio, right? You're with the Howard Stern show for over 15 years.
They broke my balls so badly when the first time I said that, because to Howard he was Wayne Newton, and the rest of us were backup singers,
Right.
But it really was the Beatles of comedy and Beatles of radio rather. And when I said that, they made fun of me for so long, and then all of a sudden it became part of the lexicon.
Right.
Everybody refers to it. I mean, it's not rocket science,
Right. No, it was a chemistry that was awesome. And, after you left, the show was still good, but it didn't have the same, it wasn't as sharp as it was. Obviously, you were the backbone of the Howard Stern show. Everybody knows that. Everyone I know knows that.
That's very nice of you to say that. And it's very nice of you to say that other people know that. People come up to me a lot of times and say that. And they say, you must get really sick of hearing that. And I say, if I ever get sick of hearing that, put a bullet in my head. Because, that rubber stamps what I did for so long.
Absolutely. The show changed after you left, obviously, but it will never be as sharp as it was when you were there.
I loved it. You know who Bob Buckman was?
Yes.
Like the WBAB morning man, him and Perry Apollo.
Yeah, he's in California.
I was on their show for 2 or 3 years. They weren't really calling my dial joke, but they were purporting to. My dial, 9221 516-922-9463, which is still going 45 years later.
I got in trouble because of that.
Is that right?
Yeah, because my mom got the phone bill. I blame it on my sisters. But, that's
great. So, me and Buckman hosted the first induction ceremony for the Long Island. Every 5 minutes they add another word to the title.
Right.
It's starting to sound like the Declaration of Independence. But it was really fun, and that was a long time ago. And it's grown and grown and grown. It's and it's fun. It's exciting.
Bob Buckman had the morning show at WBAB for years. I used to listen to it all the time. What were some of your favorite memories on the Howard Stern show?
It was so endless. Making the movie was the greatest time in the world, just the greatest time. And I spent 2 or 3 days sitting next to a naked Jenna Jameson, who was portraying the first naked girl that came on the Howard Stern show. And the way they did the movie was, since our hours were so erratic, because we had the morning radio show and Howard only had certain windows that he could do the movie, so they couldn't have the normal, work for so many, it's all union. You can only work for so long, and then you get an hour for lunch and work so long. But it was what they did was a thing called French hours, which meant there was an incredible buffet 24/7. It was just all the food, anything you wanted, anytime. You just, fetch as fetch can. And Jenna would go and stand at the buffet stark naked, wearing just a bathrobe, but the bathrobe was open. And I swear to God, these tech guys were poking each other's eyes out with the microphones because they couldn't get enough, And stuff like that was just so crazy. And one of the wildest times was sitting there, and all of a sudden, boom, through the door at like 6:15 in the morning was Sam Kinison, Jack Riley from the old Bob Newhart show.
Wow.
Pat McCormick, who's an incredible, big, monstrous, well-known comedy writer from wherever, and Chuck McCann, who was a kids' TV host when I was a kid. And these guys were out of their minds. They were watching Sam Kinison at the Comedy Store.
Right.
And they got done, and they said, "Come on, man, let's go do the Stern Show." And they got on Sam's plane with a pile of cocaine, and the next thing they came, boom. And so I'm looking, and behind me and Fred, there's Sam and Jack and
man.
Pat and Chuck, and I'm like, that's a comedy Mount Rushmore, you know, but such an odd group. There's no reason for a group like that to ever be together except for cocaine, of course. If I bump the heads, you know.
It brings everybody together.
And stuff like that wasn't even that, you know, like one day, like Joe Walsh just walked in,
right,
just wearing a bathrobe, you know, and it was open, and he's hanging out, you know.
Right.
And you just don't get thrown by that. Like Steve Grillo is writing a book, and he was an intern, and he's still a real dear old friend, and he's writing his book, and we're laughing about it, and he's saying, "Do you remember the time, it was Howard's 1996 birthday party, and Trump, I guess it was at the Plaza Hotel, and Trump screamed at Willie Nelson because he was smoking a joint at the table, and what else? Something else, but it was just crazy stuff." And I said, "You know what, Grillo? We had such a wild ride for so long. I don't remember. How could you not remember that?"
Right.
But things just happened like that, and then it was on to the next, and on to the next. And
it's just nonstop.
I mean, one birthday party, Giuliani was there.
Oh, wow.
And Joey Buttafuoco was there. And Giuliani had 2 security guards there with the express purposes of making sure there was no way Giuliani could be caught in the same picture as Buttafuoco.
Wow.
They make sure they juxtaposition them out there, which totally, you know, like,
that makes a lot of sense.
Like, Rudy hanging around with Joey, you know. Oh, it's great, you know.
In today's world, that's tough. Everybody has a phone on their, a camera on their phone.
Oh, Jesus, forget it. You know,
can't get away with anything these days. So,
but you know, I could go on and on. I have a book out called "The Joke Man Bow to Stern." I'll be glad to give you a copy.
Sure.
And it's this happened really quick, or I would have sent you one already.
That's okay.
But the memories come fast and furious. You know, it's just really incredible stuff.
I mean, obviously you know a million jokes, right? I mean, you know jokes all the way back to when you're 8 years old, right? Thousands and thousands of that. You have the memory you have, like it's all there, you know, like. You know,
it's funny you say this because I'm back in touch with my college roommate, who I love. You know, we spent 2 years up each other's nose, you know, in 66 and 67. And then we kind of went, we weren't not friends, but we parted ways because enough of each other, you know. and it became different, and he went inward a little bit and got very deep, and I just kept drinking, you know. It took me a while before I even started smoking pot.
Right.
And he saw the documentary, and he wrote me an email and said, "You know, do you think maybe today people mistake a good memory for intelligence?" And I wrote back, I said, "What are you saying? You know, well, what about a doctor that has to remember every single thing?
Right.
You know, he has to have a good memory to remember what part goes where, but that doesn't make him stupid."
Right.
You know, but it's funny because I really don't know anything else except these stupid jokes, you know, and but they've always stuck in my head. And the reason they stick in your head is from use. You know, I would just tell them and tell them and tell them and tell them. If I have a new joke, I tell it and tell it and tell it. Because very rarely do I hear a new joke. And when I do, I'm very, very excited. You know, like a little kid on Christmas.
So like use it or lose it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I just keep, you know, recycling them. And it's so funny. Because people say, "Oh, you remember every joke, remember every joke." And I'm like, I do, theoretically, and nobody's heard them all. And nobody remembers them all. But relatively speaking, I do. You know, I know more jokes than anybody in the world, but what kind of claim to fame is that? But now that I'm older, I tell people, like, somebody will come up and say, I got one for you. Why'd the chicken cross the road? And I'll go, Jesus, I used to know that one.
So the simple jokes,
yeah,
right?
just
Right, the simple.
out the window, you know.
Yeah, you had like 6 78-minute joke CDs. 78 minutes.
I
of
found
jokes.
out when I put out 3 albums in the early 80s,
Right.
comedy albums, actual LPs made out of wax, you know. And they were full of jokes. And then I wound up on the radio, and I'm still doing my stand-up, and then all of a sudden CDs hit. And I said, you know what? I really got to make some CDs, and I really got to get all of my jokes on these CDs.
Right.
And I was just not looking forward to getting a computer because I knew all the millions of jokes I had to get loaded in, which was this insurmountable task. And then they had this thing where you just load your pages on, and it would optically read what you wrote.
Oh,
but then you wound up you had to edit them all because it read,
come out right. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But I had all these jokes in there, so I did my first CD, and I found out that the optimal amount of time you can have on a CD is 78 minutes if it's spoken word.
Right.
So I said, all right, I'm going to do 78 minutes, and I did a whole CD, 78 minutes worth, and you know what? I get out of bed, and I'm already wondering, when can I take a nap?
Right.
So how I accomplished what I accomplished. But I had the CD out,
Right.
and then I want to do the next CD. So what I have to do is get rid of that 78 minutes and then bring in a complete new 78 minutes. Now, I'm not writing material and stuff like that. There were 45,000 Carson appearances.
Yeah.
These are old jokes, which I hate that expression, but they're jokes, and I already know them already, but just to get rid of, because I'm headlining at the time.
Right.
I'm spinning plates because I got to go up there and kill the crowd every time. So I got to get rid of these jokes and put in new ones, and slowly but surely until I have a whole new act and record it. And I did that 6 times, completely turn on most. So theoretically, if you're listening to the 6th CD I put out,
Right.
and you get to the end of it, those are the jokes, theoretically, that I would be telling after we've been standing at the bar for 6 hours. But not really, because they're all so funny, and they're all so crazy.
Right.
But we're talking, and and I tell people, I still sell my CDs, and they're like, you're an idiot. You can't sell CDs. I said, no, I don't sell the CDs, you moron. You can download them. But I have all 6 CDs.
Yeah.
Which is 78 minutes each, which is almost 5 hours of comedy.
It's crazy.
And a whole bunch of other stuff on there on the web. And you can download all of it for $20.
That's crazy. That's
People
awesome.
can't believe it. They say, I downloaded all those jokes. I've been listening to it for 2 years. I haven't still got to the end. And it's an easy URL. It's Olio, which is the name of the record company, which is OGLIO, Olio.com /J. I mean, it's like 7 letters. Olio.com /J, and it's $20.
Awesome.
People my God,
that's crazy.
People even have that in their PayPal as spare change,
Yeah.
you know?
I'll add that link to the page, man. That's awesome.
Okay,
Yeah.
but, this is 1993, 94. It's
93.
pretty foul. I mean, it's really foul.